Good morning, sir. Good morning, classmates. So, for Module 1, the self from various perspectives. These are the following perspectives, namely philosophical, sociological, anthropological, and psychological perspectives. So, in this lesson 1.1, we will focus on philosophical perspective, in which we will understand the self by applying the different perspectives of various philosophers. Generally, the philosophical perspective has two traditions to tackle, the European and Asian. For European tradition, we will tackle the four periods, the ancient, medieval, Renaissance, and modern. In each period, we have also different philosophers to tackle. For Asian tradition, we have Eastern or Oriental thoughts on the self, and also we will also tackle the different philosophers in this tradition. Let's start with European tradition. For the first period, the ancient period, we will tackle these three concepts: Socrates' dialect, Plato's dualism, and Aristotle's critiques on Plato's idea of the soul, matter, and form. So through these three philosophers, we will learn how to take care of the self. So we will remember these three concepts: the dialect method, the ideal, and the substance. First is dialect method, or dialogue. It is by asking questions to ourselves. So it is a way of knowing the self by Socrates. He emphasizes that you know yourself by talking to yourself. So the main point here is, in order for us to understand ourselves, we need to talk to ourselves so that we can understand who we are. Number 2, or the ideal. These are the qualities of life that serves as our goals in life. Plato emphasizes that the idea on the ideal self only exists in one's mind. He added that the human soul is composed of three parts: the appetitive soul, spiritual soul, and the rational soul. He said that to become our ideal self, we must let our rational soul to control our appetitive and spiritual soul. So the main point here is that our mind must be above our hearts and body. Number 3, or the substance. Aristotle said that substance are the things which are composed of matter and form. So it is his reaction to Plato's point of view. So in which Plato said that the idea of the ideal self only exists in mind only. But Aristotle said that we must accept the world we are living right now as real. So in relation to understanding the self, we can say that yes, we have ideal self. But the most important thing that we need to understand also is to accept what we are, to accept who we are inside and outside, so that other people also will accept us. So here is the picture of the conversation between Plato and Aristotle. So we can say that Plato is a idealistic person, while Aristotle is more on realistic. Okay, so let's move on to the medieval period. So in this period, we will tackle two philosophers, the Augustine Hippo and Thomas Aquinas. So actually, both scholars have the same and different points of views. So there are three concepts to remember: the privation, essence, and purpose. Number 1, or privation, in which according to Augustine, it is the absence of something. So he explained that there is existence of things which may not really existing. For example, darkness, coldness, and evil, these are the things that does not really exist. So for him, darkness does not really exist, but darkness is just a privation of light or an absence of light. He said that there is a darkness because there is no light. So in relevance to understanding the self, sometimes we felt empty in life. Augustine also has his confession when he was young, and his short story goes like this. When he was young, he realized an emptiness or privation because he is not happy. Maybe he is from other religion, and by that time, when he was converted to Christianity, he realized that his source of fulfillment is God. So for him to become closer and closer to God, he was exposed by prayers, he was exposed with God's services. So, in that time also, he realized that his greatest or his ultimate source of fulfillment is no other than God. So, like Augustine, we must also search our source of fulfillment to understand our lives better. Number two, or the essence, it is something that makes a thing what it is. So, applying these concepts to understanding the self, we may ask this question: what makes me me? Well, for me, I think the things that makes me who I am are God, family, and my friends. Because actually, they are the one who hone me, especially my character and personality. So I think that is my point for that. Well, anyways, Aquinas, according to Aquinas, he said that we may better understand our essence if we know our purpose. Number three, or the purpose, means the reason why a particular thing exists. So Aquinas said that everything happens for a purpose, and he added that everything also exists to glorify God. So when I say purpose, especially for us students, what is our purpose? For me, I think my purpose is to study so that in the future, in God's will, we can serve our community, we can serve our country. So like that. So knowing our essence and purpose will make us realize what is essential in life, needs and wants. So in this way we become a better self-reflecting individual in society. Okay, so let's take a look of this picture. We have this chair, the cockroach, the humans. So they have also different purposes and essence. So according to Saint Thomas Aquinas, his purpose in this world is to serve God, and this purpose is essentially part of who he is. Let's move on to Renaissance period, wherein the press was now available to the masses. There are three philosophers, namely Francis Bacon, René Descartes, and Thomas Hobbes. So there are three concepts to remember: inductive method, doubting, and self-human nature. First is inductive method. So it is a way of attaining certainty through a careful process of investigation and experimentation. It means we need to have support of evidence and do not jump on to conclusion directly. So we need to observe and experiment until we find proof. According to Francis Bacon. Application of inductive method to reality. So for example, when someone says you are dumb, so instead of listening to them directly, you need to evaluate yourself. You need to evaluate your mental capacity so that you can have support and evidences. So we look to our grades, to our educational achievement, to the praises received from our classmates and our teachers. These are the proofs or evidences that you are not dumb, brother. So by this, we are proving to them that they are wrong. Number two, it was doubting by René Descartes, in which he uses doubt to attain certainty. Actually, attaining certainty in life requires this careful, deductive, and intuitive process. Doubting, you need to evaluate. That is the meaning of doubting. So, according to Descartes, he said that cogito ergo sum, or I think, therefore I am. Application of doubting into understanding ourselves. So, when other people say negative things to you, you should not directly listen to them. Instead, you need to evaluate yourself first. You will say, are you sure about what you are saying against me? So that's it. Because of that, you purify your past assumptions and other opinions, and through the process of carefully evaluating yourself. Because the moment that you find that there is no doubt, then that is the things that you are sure to yourself. Third is The Selfish Human Nature by Thomas Hobbes, in which he is focused on political philosophy. So he said that human beings are naturally greedy and unruly. So he observes that humans are living only for themselves, and we do something because we get something in return. That's why some other people helping others because they can benefit from them. According to Hobbes, being selfish is just normal. So let's take for example, you study not because you want to serve the country, but because you want to have a job in the future. So, another term, Or other example, you help your classmate not because you want to help him understand the lesson, but because you want to gain some favors from him. So these are the examples of selfishness according to Hadith. So in relevance to understanding the self, so the most important lesson in this part is that we should acknowledge our selfishness. Why? Because it is virtually impossible to be generous all the time. We could not become generous as all of the time. Why? Because sometimes we need to take care of ourselves. Why? Because other people might abuse us. That's why we need to be careful, we need to be mindful, and we need also to be aware of the people around us. Okay, so to summarize, all the three philosophers or Renaissance philosophers react to other people's comment to them. So this is the illustration or the picture. So Francis Bacon actually asked some proof. While Rene Descartes is doubting, and Thomas Hobbes is actually acknowledging that all humans are selfish. Now let's move on to the last period of the European tradition, which is the modern period. It is now the Industrial Revolution, wherein the people in Europe had been converted from rural communities into urban communities. So that is the reason why there are different ideas, customs, and traditions has been flourished. So in this time, from relaxed provincial life becomes busy urban lifestyle. So seemingly, it becomes mechanical work home. Okay, so in this period, we will focus more on existentialism, in which human beings are persons who create their own choices. So there are four existentialists there. We have Soren, Kierkegaard, Friedrich Nietzsche, Martin Heidegger. So there are 7 terms to remember about existentialism. We have authentic, leap of faith, Übermensch, eternal recurrence, Dasein, being thrown in the world, and being into death. For number 1, authentic, or shall we say being unique. Actually, one of the most common goal of existentialism is being authentic or being unique. So for now, we will tackle 2 sources for the definition of being authentic. So for Jean-Paul Sartre has said that an authentic person is someone who is truly free, and that existence precedes essence. On the other hand, layman's terms, an authentic person is someone who is true to himself or herself, or being sincere. Second one is life is consistent with his or her beliefs. You are constant with what you believe and you do what you believe. Other one is walks the talk, regardless of what the society or other people tell you to do. Number 2 is leap of faith. It means from being no direction person into a faithful individual. So according to Kierkegaard, he illustrates that there are 3 stages of life to be an authentic person. First is aesthetic, second ethical, and third is the religious stage. Application of the 3 stages of life under the leap of faith. Okay, so imagine the life of a drug addict who wants to change for the better. Now, the moment that when the addict enjoys a lower form of pleasure, it is called aesthetic stage. It is the unique qualities or behavior of a person. Then, the drug addict goes to rehabilitation center. On the moment that the addict becomes conscious of the laws and respect other people, he is now on the ethical stage in which he has the moral awareness. However, the drug addict thinks that the moral codes in society still cannot satisfy him, so he may choose to believe in a higher being than him. When this person believes in God, he is now in the religious stage. So from being an addict person into a religious one. Now let's take a look for this picture. Okay, so we have these 3 stages, the aesthetic stage, ethical stage, and religious stage. So based on the example given, so we can say that from being an addict person and has been converted into a responsible citizen and is having a leap of faith from being a responsible individual into being a religious stage. So that is what it means by leap of faith. Moreover, there's a huge gap that you need to jump or take the leap of faith. In other words, the choice to believe in something divine depends on the person. Actually, it is all up to you if you believe in God or not. So, all the decisions that we have, so it will depend on us if we will believe in God or not. So, the choice is on us. Okay, so third is Obersmensch. According to Friedrich Nietzsche, he believes that in becoming authentic, you need to go beyond good and evil, or become an Obersmensch. Okay, so he explained the journey to be authentic in an allegory of the three metamorphoses, being a camel, being a lion, and being a child. So, the story of these three metamorphoses goes this way. Okay, so tingnan natin ang larawan na nasa screen. Makikita natin ang isang dragon, camelyo, leon, pagiging isang bata, at Obersmensch. Okay, so ang dragon dyan ay kumakatawan sa mga batas, kultura, at relihiyon na nasa ating komunidad. Yan ang dragon. Okay, so pag sinabi natin pagiging isang camelyo, ibig sabihin, tayo ay takot. Takot na masaktan, takot na maparusahan, kaya wala tayong magawa kundi maging isang sunod-sunuran. Yan ang kumakatawan sa pagiging isang kamelyo. Pero kapag sinabi natin pagiging isang leon, ibig sabihin kunikwisyon natin kung ano mga batas, mga kultura, at sa ganyang pamamaraan, maiintindihan natin kung bakit ganito, bakit ganyan. Kasi ang pagiging isang leon ay isang pamamaraan para hindi tayo maging sunod-sunuran. Instead, tayo ay upang makawala sa sistema ng pang-aalipin. So, ganun. So, sa ganyang pamamaraan, namatay na ang isang dragon, wala nang mga batas, wala na tayong mga sinusunod. So, tayo po ay nagiging isang bata. Ang isang bata, or isang manlilikha, kasi ang isang bata likas na malikhain. Kung saan, tayo ay gumagawa ng ating sariling batas. At sa puntong ito, tayo ay tumatanda, lumalaki, at nakikita natin ang ating mga potensyal. At sa ganyang pamamaraan na tayo ay nag-start na ng pagiging isang potensyalidad, meron tayong potensyal, so magiging isa na tayong Obersmensch. Meron na tayong kapangyarihan. Yan ang ibig sabihin. Fourth is eternal recurrence. So, if you remember the story above, or story kanina, okay, so when we say eternal recurrence, means you need to undergo this process again from being a camel, being a lion, being a child, and being an Obersmensch. So, when you undergo that, so that is what we called eternal recurrence. So, we undergo the process again. So, that is what it means. Okay, so application of the concept of Obersmensch and eternal recurrence into understanding the self. Okay, so Nietzsche there, he emphasizes that we need to break our limits. It emphasizes breaking your limits. So he emphasizes also that we should not settle ourselves for less. Instead, we must set ourselves for greater. So ganon. That is the reason why we need to become a better version of ourselves as we live in our life. So that is the meaning. Actually, in this difficult life, we need to face hardships heads on, because whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. All of the difficulties that we have suffered actually are sent for us to become stronger. Number 5 is Dasein, in which it means being into the world, being itself, being thrown in the world, or actually simply as a being. So, being in itself. In other words, you are a separate individual apart from everyone else. So, ibig sabihin, iba ka sa ibang tao. Kasi ikaw ay ikaw. You are you. And because you are own individual, you need to make your own choices because it is your life. That is what it means for being in itself. Pagiging ikaw. Number 6, or being thrown in the world. Our thrownness means that the moment we were born in the world, we already have so many things that are not product of our choices. So meaning we are already given with these materials. So for example, our parents, our culture and economic status when we were born into, and even our name are things given to us already, even we didn't ask for it. So, part of becoming authentic is to embrace this trueness because it is essentially part of who we are. So, what things given to us by God, then we need to accept it. Okay, number 7, or being unto death. So, in simpler terms, we are born to die. For according to Heidegger, you should not be afraid because that gives meaning to our life. Okay, so because our life here on earth is limited, that is the reason why we must live our life to the fullest. Meaning, susulitin natin ang ating buhay hanggang tayo ay nabubuhay pa. Okay, so application of these concepts in understanding ourselves. So, for example, our journey in VSU as a VSU students. So first, we are being thrown in the world, which means that there are things we can get from VSU, actually which are not product of our choice. For example, our classmates, our instructors, and even the pandemic situation. They are not our choices, but we will still need to deal with it because it is already given to us, so we need to accept it. So, that is part of being thrown in the world. We are given, so we need to accept what is given to us. Second one is being in itself. For example, our classmates, teachers, and other people in the university are not us. They are not us. Thus, we make our own decision as students. For example, our parents, our teachers, and classmates may say different opinions about our studies. But still, at the end of the day, the ultimate decision maker is us, as students. We are the decision makers of ourselves. So that is being in itself, decision makers. Okay, so lastly, we are being unto death. Actually, we cannot be students of VSU forever. Our studies here in VSU is just limited. So that is why we need to make the most of it. We need to study hard, make friends, and participate in school events as much as possible because our time in VSU is limited. We may not have another chance again. So as much as our death gives meaning to our lives, our graduation provides sense to our studies also. Okay, so now since we are done with the European traditions, so we will move forward to Asian tradition. For one, Eastern or Oriental thoughts on the self. So in this lesson, we'll focus on the alternative schools of thought in Eastern antiquity, notably Siddhartha Gautama Buddha and Confucius teachings. Okay, there are three concepts that we need to remember about Oriental philosophers. These are Nirvana or enlightenment, middle way, and virtues. Number 1, or Nirvana or enlightenment. Okay, so in this part, Siddhartha Gautama Buddha, who is a religious founder, he have observed that the world is full of suffering. So he felt pity about the situation, and that is the reason why he lived his luxurious life in Indian palace because actually he is wealthy. So he lived his luxurious life and he sought inner peace through meditation until he reached the point of nirvana or the highest form of enlightenment. Okay, for number 2 is middle way. Okay, middle way means abandon luxury in life. However, this does not mean that you need to reject everything in the world. Ang ibig sabihin lang nito ay at least meron tayong sapat na pagkain, meron tayong sapat na tubig, meron tayong tirahan, meron tayo ng mga bagay na kinakailangan natin. Okay, so ganon. Okay, so giving up riches in life and moderating your needs is what Buddhist calls the middle way. Ang pagiging balanse. Pagiging meron tayo ng mga bagay na kailangan natin, hindi yung mga gusto, hindi yung sobra-sobra. Yung tama lang, yung balanse lamang. Ganun ang ibig sabihin ng middle way. Okay, so these are the 4 noble truths. There is suffering in the world. There is a reason in this suffering. There is an end to this suffering. And we can end the suffering through the Noble Eightfold Path. Okay, so these are right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. These are all are a part of Eightfold Path that we as a student need also to apply in ourselves for us to live a better life. Okay, so let's have a brief reflection. So, what is more important to know, the relevance of Buddhist culture is to realizing the self. Remember that Buddha, to end our suffering, we need to get rid of our desires. So, kailangan nating tanggalin yung mga wants natin, yung mga gustuhin lang natin. Kailangan na sa isip natin kung anong mga bagay na kailangan natin. So, one straightforward yet effective way is to change your outlook rather than the circumstances of the things. For example, pag sinabi nating mayaman, masaya. Pag sinabi nating mahirap, hindi na masaya. Hindi yun ganun. Kasi, in reality, hindi lahat ng mayaman masaya. At hindi naman lahat ng mahirap ay hindi masaya. So, we need to change our outlooks. Kailangan nating baguhin ang pananaw natin sa isang bagay upang mabago natin ang ating buhay too. So, Buddhist monks says, happiness and unhappiness are just states of the mind. Gawa-gawa lang yan ng yung utak, yung isipan. So, hindi lahat ng bagay na iniisip mo ay totoo. Okay, so before I discuss this concept in the screen, allow me to share to you one example. One example of out of 8 pathfold. Okay. So, isang halimbawa, nag-aral ka ng mabuti sa paaralan kasi naghahangad ka na maging top ng klase nyo. But then your teacher, actually, she announces the ranking of honor students. So, nakita mo na second place ka lang. At, ang malala pa dyan is, there's just only 0.1 difference between your grades from the first honor and you. So, imbes na magalit ka, or imbes na magtampok ka or maging malungkot ka, kailangan na baguhin mo ang pananaw ng isang bagay. No? Kailangan na baguhin mo ang iyong pananaw. Kailangan tanggapin at maging masaya ka kung ano ang meron ka. Kasi pagiging isang honor student is actually hindi siya madali. Diba? So, kailangan na maging happy ka pa rin. So, wag na wag mong i-stress yung sarili mo sa mga bagay na hindi mo naman kayang i-control. At dapat, ang kaligayahan mo ay hindi nakadepende sa ibang tao o sa sitwasyon man. Kailangan na hanapin mo ang totoong makapagpapaligaya ng puso mo at ng sarili mo. So, by reorienting your mind and ignoring superficial things, huwag maging materialistic. No? So, by that, you will reach a stable form of happiness that leads to enlightenment. Or, para maliwanagan ka na ang totoong bagay na makapagpapasayo or makakapagpapasaya sa'yo ay hindi yung material na bagay. Okay? So, changing your mindset is one application of right view and the Noble Eight Pathfold. So, ganon. Okay? So, it is not about rejecting yourself and the world around you, but about acknowledging that you are one with the world. That you can be happy with the simple things and do not care about things that you do not matter in life. So, magiging masaya din naman tayo kahit simple lang, di ba? Yung masaya na totoong-totoo. Yung ganon. So, you have a Buddhahood in you. So, kailangan lang natin i-activate, i-apply lang natin yung Eightfold Path para meron tayong sense of Buddhahood. Okay, lastly is virtues. To create a strong nation, the foundation of society starts by developing virtues in individuals. Confucius believes that the formation of the human character starts with the family. He regarded filial piety so much that respect for elders is a superior custom than any law in society. So, ini-emphasize ni Confucius na ang human character, yung ating attitude, dapat na ma-hone yan, magsisimula yan sa family. Kasi, sa pamilya tayo, mas nadidevelop natin yung ating character, yung ating mga gawi, yung mga behavior natin, yung ating mga bagay na ginagawa natin ay dyan nakuhone sa family. So, dapat na magsimula ang pagiging isang moral ng isang tao galing sa family. Nandyan yung disiplina, nandyan yung guidance, di ba? Family is one of the basic and stronger unit na kailangan nating pahalagahan. Moreover, Confucian teachings always highlights the importance of self-improvement. Central to this philosophy are three core values: filial piety, humaneness, and ritual consciousness. If you want a good government, start by being a good person. Okay? So further, concerning understanding the self, you become your better self by developing a good sense of morality. Perhaps you can better understand Confucian teachings related to the self by reading quotations from various analects. Okay, so ine-emphasize naman dito ni Confucius na kailangan pa nating paunlarin ang ating mga kakayahan, ang ating morality. Kailangan na kung gusto natin ng magandang government, kailangan din natin na maging isang mabuting mamamayan, maging responsable na mamamayan. Okay? So, the only way we can become our better self is by developing a good sense of morality. Because meron ako nabasa na according to, I think it was just anonymous, na your character will determine your fate. Ibig sabihin na kahit magaling ka, kahit ganun ka, pero ang character mo, kapag hindi mo yan hinahasa, hindi ka naging mabuti, merong tendency na ang character mo rin ay makakapagpapasira sa iyo. So, ganun ang ibig sabihin. Okay, so this is the most common but yet most useful quotations from Confucius. So, do not do unto others what you do not want others to do unto you. So, wag mong gawin sa iba ang mga bagay na ayaw mo rin gawin nila sa iyo. So, most common, pero most applicable also. Okay, so, taking care of the self in the philosophical perspective. So, as you have noticed that each of the philosophers have discussed has different concepts relevant to the self. So, each one of them also has different advice on how to take care of the self. So, it will be summarized in this picture. Okay, so here is a summary of the different philosophers out of three traditions from European and ancient tradition. Okay, so from ancient, medieval, Renaissance, modern, and Oriental philosophers. So these are all things that I can share to everyone who are listening right now, and I hope that you have learned something. So perhaps we can understand ourselves by applying the different perspectives of these various philosophers in our life. So, I am Leonasa T. Adubas, a BSS2 student under M859, Understanding the Self. So, I hope you have learned something, and that could be all. Thank you for listening.